here we are talking about audio. And here you are, a content creator, a filmmaker, someone who's interested in making their audio sound really good for videos. Audio sometimes is like that awkward friendship. I don't know what to ask. I don't know how to do this. Someone please help. And trust me, as a former full-time audio guy myself, it's not easy. Perhaps in the recording side of things, you feel pretty confident about getting good results with microphones and mixers and all that sort of stuff. But the question really is, once it's in my computer, how do I make it sound good, rich, full, processed? How do I make it sound professional? And that's what we're gonna be talking about today. In this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys the process that I use for my recorded audio in DaVinci Resolve. I'm gonna break this video down into 5 simple steps. I'm gonna show you how to do this in the way that I would with the plugins and the tools that I've used over the years that I use every time, but I'm also gonna show you how to do it with stock plugins in DaVinci Resolve. But we can't do this video without some sort of sound to work with. Let's record some audio and get cracking on this process. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. Okay, so now that we've recorded that demo, I brought it into DaVinci Resolve, sort of moved my setup over here so we can focus on what we're doing in here. Just to sort of walk you through what I have going on here in Resolve, I've got the single video clip and then I've got 2 copies of the actual audio that I recorded. One is so I can show you guys how I would edit the audio with my process, and the other is for later in the video when I show you how to do the same process or a similar process with all stock plugins in Resolve. So let's jump over to the Fairlight tab here and get going on this process. So step 1 is noise reduction. Noise reduction is reducing noise. And the plugin that I use for noise reduction is from a company called Isotope. It's called Voice to Noise. So to get that, I would jump over to the effects panel, go to restoration, my VST plugins, which are just plugins that I've installed, and go down to RX Voice to Noise. And the way that I use this is actually really easy. I keep it on this adaptive mode, which adapts to, as it says, automatically adjusts the noise profile to the changes in the noise floor. The noise floor, if you're unfamiliar, is just these quiet parts where I'm not talking, just the sound of the room that the microphone is picking up. What I like to do is let the audio play, and then when it hits a certain part of the noise floor, I just turn the adaptive mode off and it sets perfectly. So I'll give you an example of that right now. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. If I ever am in a situation where I'm not really sure if it did a good job, if I set my in and out point here at the very beginning of this track and I loop the audio by hitting this button, then I can actually, make sure that the noise is working properly by maybe turning up my headphone mix or turning it up on your computer just so you can hear where it's actually going to town on this noise. So that sounds pretty good to me. I don't hear any more noise, which is a good sign. So if I turn this off, very, very subtle. Again, that's why you might want to turn up your headphones, not on this video, but on your actual preamp when you're doing this, just so you can get a better idea of how it's working. And so that's noise reduction. And I just want to point out that while these plugins do a really good job of reducing noise, it's never going to 100% take away noise that exists in your audio file. So what I mean by that is when you record your audio, before you hit record, take a listen, turn things off that are producing noise. Of course, if you're by a window, you can't really control New York City blowing through, right? But do your best, close them, put some dampening around the edges if you need to. It's very, very important that you start with a clean and quiet audio track because as you build, and as we'll see later in this video, adding on effects to that noisy audio is going to compound and compound and compound, and it's going to get louder and louder and sound less good. So step 0, I guess, is record with a good microphone, a good mixer, a quiet room, and then step 1 is noise reduction if you need it. So let's move on to step number 2. So the second step of this process is EQ, or equalization. If you don't really know what that means, you actually probably do. You just don't realize it. If you've ever adjusted the settings on maybe your Spotify or Apple Music to sort of adjust bass or mids or treble, That's EQ. In a nutshell, we're doing that, but on our microphones, on our audio. So to access this EQ, again, I'm gonna go into my effects, I'm gonna go down to EQ, and right here, it's the FabFilter Pro Q3. One of the reasons why I love this plugin is that as you play the audio back, you get the waveform showing up. You can use your eyes as well as your ears to help you make some choices about what you're hearing in the room. And it's very beginner friendly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to load up the preset that I use on my voice pretty much all the time. The basic essence of perhaps a YouTube overhead microphone setup or an interview is you want a balanced, clear, and full sounding audio file. So how do you do this? Well, let's look at my preset to sort of see how I approached it for me. Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt, but I did want to flag the thing that I just said. You might have actually missed it. As I mentioned, all microphones sound different, and right now I'm recording this and that video on an overhead boom mic that's just outside of frame. In my experience and in my opinion, I think this is the best way to capture audio for videos for YouTube just like this where you can. Obviously, you can't always record with something like this. Sometimes it makes more sense to record with a microphone like this. Or maybe you're a podcaster and maybe you're recording with a microphone like this all the time. All microphones sound so different from each other. And especially depending on how far away the microphone is from your mouth, it's going to change the frequencies immensely. I just wanted to pause and remind you of the point that I just made, that it's really important not to shoot for specific settings here, but really to shoot for something that's balanced, clear, and full. That's the kind of direction you want to be heading when you're EQing your audio. The rest of the steps in this video will probably work regardless of what microphone you're using. So let's jump back into the video. And if you still have questions at the end of this video, just drop me a comment. I'll try my best to answer any questions that you have. The first thing that I did here is I cut off some of this low energy. The next thing that I did is I added a big boost to the low end here because I want it to feel big and rich, especially playing back on a YouTube video. I brought down some of this mid-range in my voice because, it started to sound a little boxy. I'll give you a demonstration here. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of relaxes the voice, makes it feel a little bit more full. And then I added just like a nice high-end lift, and it's a very gentle sort of lift to the high end. So let's take a listen to it with it on. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. Let's listen to it with it off. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. Definitely an improvement. We're hitting a lot of the marks that we had before, but for now, let's move forward with this as a base of our EQ onto step number 3. So step number 3 in this process is compression. Compression is one of my favorite parts of this process because it takes your audio from sounding a little all over the place as it does right now and really makes it sound balanced. One of my favorite compression plugins that I'm consistently using is a plugin called RVox. It's from Waves. So if I go over to the dynamics and I select it here, you'll see maybe why I like it so much. It's got 3 little faders. It's so simple to use. It's got this compression knob, which basically is how much compression you're gonna add to the audio. It's got a gate that I sometimes use if I'm feeling crazy, and a gain control. What I normally do is I just play the audio and I turn it up to where I feel like it's good. I don't normally go past 10, so I usually stop around 8, and I'm happy with the results usually. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. This plugin seriously is so good, especially in this area here where there's this loud section and a quiet section. Let's take a listen to how it's working with it on and off. So here's with it on, with the time that you have. Okay, so that's with it on. Now with it off, with the time that you have. You see how it brings up the quietness of that little line here and it squishes down the loudness of this clip here. Let's listen to it one more time with it on, with the time that you have. And then one more time with it off, with the time that you have. That's compression in a nutshell. I just want to take a quick second before we move on and introduce myself to anybody who's new around the channel. My name is Michael, and on this channel, we talk about film photography, filmmaking, and all sorts of things revolving around that sort of sphere. So if you're interested in that kind of content, consider subscribing and leaving a like on this video, especially if you're enjoying it. So with that being said, let's get back into the video. So step number 4 of this process is de-essing. I'm gonna go ahead and load up the plugin here under restoration. It's again from the same family as the other ones. It's the RX DS. What de-essing does is it takes where your S sounds, those harsh like sounds that sometimes pierce through headphones or speakers, and it just sort of brings those levels down. I have a little preset that I've made for my voice that, normally works pretty well. And so all that it really does is I adjust it for, where the S's are happening. So let's go ahead and check this box that allows us to just listen to where the plugin is working. Test. Cool. So let's listen to this with this plugin on. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do. Okay, and then let's listen to it with it off. You can hear how it's kind of working on those S's. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do. It's bringing down those harsh S's. Again, it's just so subtly protecting your listeners from really being annoyed by the harshness of an S in their headphones or their speakers. There's not much else to de-essing. That's really it for step number 4. So step number 5 is limiting. You have to be very careful with limiting and use it very gently. But what limiting does in a nutshell is allows you to increase the volume of your current audio. So, we've got an EQ, we've got noise reduction, we've got some compression, we've got some de-essing. Take all of that and bring the volume up slowly to a place that's a little bit louder, a little bit more comfortable for a YouTube video, for something online. And that's limiting in a nutshell. So the last plugin I'll add is also under Dynamics here. It's the FabFilter Pro L2. And so for this plugin, again, the presets are a really good place to begin. I normally, for YouTube videos, I made a little preset here, but I did it based off of this vocals natural limiting algorithm that this limiter has. What I like to do is change the output level maximum to -2, which means no matter how hard I push this gain, it's not gonna go past -2 dB, because if it does, it's going to clip. And if it clips, that means it's gonna distort and it's not gonna sound very good. So one tip for all of you in Resolve is to make sure your meters are turned on, and under this loudness meter, change the settings to YouTube. This is how you measure loudness, not just, oh, it's pretty loud, sounds good. No, this will help you see, okay, it's too loud or it's too quiet. And -14 is the new YouTube standard. So anything above -14 for your total video with music and sound effects and dialogue, anything above -14 is going to be brought back by YouTube. Anything underneath is going to be underneath. -14 to me as an audio guy is so loud. So I normally shoot for 16 or 17. I don't like to push it too hard. So as I play this back, let's watch this number go up as I increase the gain on the limiter. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do. Push it up here with the time that you have. So we're at 5 dB of gain. So I'm gonna let it play back again. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. Enough of that. Let's listen to what it sounded like with everything off straight out of the microphone, and then we'll turn it on to see where we've ended up here. So this is with everything off. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. And this is with everything on. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. And there you have it. A lot louder, more full, more balanced. I would say even more better. So with all of that said, let's quickly dive into doing this with stock plugins for Resolve. So to do noise reduction with DaVinci Resolve stock plugins or effects, is to use their built-in voice isolation. It's really good. So make sure you select this track here and then turn on voice isolation. I like to start at 70% because 100 usually sounds like a bit fractured and it's a bit glitchy and it's not very good. So let's take a listen to how it's doing at 70%. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do. Okay, so it's sounding pretty good. Again, I think it's easier to tell after we've put everything on it what it's doing. So as a start, maybe start at 70%, and as we add effects further down, you can make some adjustments. Step number 2 for EQ. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to change around the order of operations in your tab here. For this, you're going to want to make sure that your EQ goes first, your dynamics go next, and then your effects. Why? Because in EQ, you're pushing the level of volume per frequency. Compression, you're squeezing together those volume adjustments. For voiceovers and for YouTube video stuff like this, I like to have my EQ first, then dynamics, and then my effects, just like we did in the non-channel strip version of the stock plugins. We did EQ, compression, and then we did everything else, right? So to do equalization in Resolve's stock plugins, make sure that you have the EQ setting under the mixer turned on, and you're gonna double click here to bring up the EQ window. So just like the other one that we did, right, we're gonna sort of do something very similar. We're gonna turn on band 1. We're gonna change the frequency to around 80, right? We're going to bring some bass up, and then we can bring down some of that 600. We can adjust this Q factor, which, you know, adjusts the way that it's doing its thing. We can push some of this mid frequency, and then we can add a high shelf here. So let's take a listen to see kind of where we're at. I wouldn't recommend just doing that by your eye and not listening to it. So let's listen and adjust. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. Okay, that sounds really good. If you're interested in copying all of these things just as a starting point, I'll upload this preset for you guys and allow you to download it and try it out for yourself. Again, make sure you change it for your own microphones and stuff, but it might help. So after EQ, we jump into compression. So under the dynamics here, where I would start with this is the presets page. Jump over to the dialogue leveler soft knee. Without getting too deep into the nitty gritty of what the heck that means, essentially all you're going to want to do for this is to change this knob here, the threshold, and the makeup gain. Makeup gain, let's start with 0 for now. What I'm gonna do is play this back, and you're going to wanna adjust it to where maybe the quietest part of your audio is. Probably this part of the audio. So let's start it a little later here and turn it on. With the time that you have. So don't waste it. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn that up just a little bit here, just because I feel like -24, like right around here is where this audio is hitting. That you have. As you can see, it's like right there that you have. I'm gonna go to like -24, so it's doing a little bit more work before then. And that should get us in a place that works a little bit better for this audio take. And so with your threshold set properly and your makeup gain pushed up to about 3 dB, that's pretty much all you're gonna need to do for compression. So for step number 4, there's a little bit of a caveat to this. DaVinci's built-in de-esser, I don't think it sounds very good. I think it causes a lot of issues with audio. It makes things sound a little glitchy, especially if you're using the fast or the medium reaction time. What I would recommend is downloading this free plugin called Nova. Once you've downloaded the plugin, it's very easy to use. It's right here, it's called TDR Nova. You can click here and you can do DS split. DS split is where I would start for this. And then I would play back your audio and find the sweet spot here. Testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. And there you go. This is a really good plugin to use for de-essing. And with that, we can jump into step number 5. So for limiting with stock plugins, you're gonna jump to dynamics here, Fairlight effects, and then limiter. Let's go ahead and do the same thing that we did for the other one. We can type in -2 dB, which is the exact same for this one. The built-in limiter from Resolve is very good, but I wouldn't recommend pushing it too terribly hard. So I'm gonna aim, instead of negative 14, 15, or 16, I'm gonna aim for negative 17 or negative 18. So let's go ahead and play this back and turn up the level until we get a result like that. Testing, testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. So don't waste it. All right. Testing, testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. That sounds very good to me. Good levels. And that is how you do this with stock plugins, baby. They're probably going to sound fairly similar. One may sound a little bit better than the other. They might sound identical. That's good. You want these to sound similar. If they don't, then I'm not doing a good job of teaching you how to do this similar process in Resolve. So let's take a listen here. Testing, testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. Testing, testing, 14,000. There's only so much to do with the time that you have. I really hope that this video was helpful for you as you're trying to make your audio sound better for videos. I promise you that if you take this foundation of processing your audio and you apply it to the way that you think about your audio, your videos are only going to get better. So to wrap up, I hope you guys really did enjoy this video, or you took something from it that you can use on your next project. If you did, feel free to hit that thumbs up. And if you're looking for more content on filmmaking, film photography, creative content in general, hit subscribe, stick around. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.